Picture the American dream, 1955. White picket fence, a Chrysler gleaming in the driveway, a fridge packed with ice-cold Nuka-Cola. In this world, money is a promise, invisible, intangible, held together by nothing but collective agreement. You work, you get paid. You take out a 30-year mortgage on a house you'll never fully own. It's stable, it's boring, it's civilization. Then the clocks stop. October 23rd, 2077, the sirens, the white sky, and in under 2 hours, the global economy isn't just damaged, it's deleted. Every digital dollar in your bank account, every stock option, every retirement fund, gone. No recovery, no bailout, no too big to fail. Fast forward 200 years, you crawl out of a hole in the ground and realize something deeply uncomfortable. You still need to buy things. You need ammo, you need stim packs, you need someone to set your broken leg without asking questions. But you can't swipe a card. There's no Venmo in the wasteland. This is where Fallout stops being just a shooter and becomes one of the most surprisingly sharp economic thought experiments ever put in a video game. It asks a question that actual anthropologists argue about. When everything we trust evaporates, what do we grab onto? Why did a bottle cap beat gold? Why did the NCR, the good guys, destroy their own economy? And what does any of this have to do with the cash in your real wallet right now? Welcome to Apocalypse Economics. Let's start with the object everyone laughs at, the bottle cap. On the surface, it's absurd. Charming, sure, but absurd. Except when you actually look at why caps became currency, it's one of the most elegant monetary designs in fiction. Here's what most people get wrong. The hub merchants didn't choose caps arbitrarily. They chose them because of one property that every successful currency needs and almost nobody talks about. They couldn't be faked. The industrial equipment needed to press steel caps with that specific corrosion-resistant coating. It burned in the war. The knowledge to rebuild it? Gone with the engineers. You can melt down gold and recast it. You can carve wood into coins. But in the post-war wasteland, nobody has the means to manufacture a convincing bottle cap from scratch. That's counterfeiting resistance built into the apocalypse. Now, there's a popular theory that caps were originally backed by water. 1 cap, 1 liter of clean drinking water redeemable at hub trading posts. Whether that's strictly canon or inspired fan lore, the logic is perfect. You can't drink gold, you can't fire paper, but in a world of rampant radiation and contaminated rivers, clean water is the one thing everyone will always need. That's a commodity backing that makes more instinctive sense than anything printed on a Federal Reserve note. And here's the psychology piece. In a world with no courts, no contracts, no cops, a physical object you can hold, stack, and drop on a counter creates trust. There's something primal about it, and your brain doesn't process trash, it processes options. Remember that New Vegas quest, A Valuable Lesson, where you destroy the working cap press inside Sunset Sarsaparilla headquarters? Most players treat it as a weird side note. It isn't. That's a hyperinflation prevention mission. If one entity controls a cap press, they can print themselves into dominance and detonate the entire wasteland economy in the process. The fact that the game gives you a reason to care about that, that's genuinely sophisticated writing. Okay, this is the part of the video where we talk about the biggest monetary policy disaster in post-nuclear fiction, and it's committed by the heroes. The NCR tried to rebuild civilization the right way. Central bank, paper currency backed by gold, a real functioning monetary system. And for a while, it worked. The NCR dollar was respected. Traders accepted it. It had genuine purchasing power. Then, the Brotherhood of Steel destroyed their gold reserves. And the NCR made the decision that has ended empires across actual human history. They kept printing anyway. The dollar became fiat currency overnight, not backed by gold, not backed by water, backed by nothing except the promise of a government stretched thin across thousands of miles of hostile desert, bleeding soldiers and resources into the Mojave campaign. By the time your courier rolls into New Vegas, the NCR dollar has lost so much value that merchants visibly hesitate when you pay with it. You can watch the inflation in the dialogue. That's not flavor text, that's a textbook description of what happens when a government funds a war by running the printing press. Now look at Caesar's legion. The denarius, silver. The aureus, gold. Commodity money. Even if the legion collapses tomorrow, even if Caesar dies tonight, a silver coin is still silver. Its value doesn't depend on anyone's promise. It doesn't need a functioning government behind it. It just needs to exist. This is a currency crisis, modeled in a 2010 video game by a studio that was primarily thinking about making an RPG fun to play. And if you know your 20th century history, this pattern is grotesquely familiar. Weimar Germany, 1921 to 1923. Germany lost World War I and was saddled with enormous war reparations it couldn't pay. The solution? Print money. Within 2 years, the German mark had lost so much value that people were literally burning bundles of cash for heat because it was cheaper than firewood. Workers were paid twice a day because by lunchtime, morning wages had already lost value. A wheelbarrow of cash to buy a loaf of bread. It sounds like a joke. It was a national catastrophe. Zimbabwe, 2007 to 2009. The government printed money to cover debts and fund political priorities. Inflation peaked at an estimated 89 sextillion%, a number so large it's essentially meaningless. The Zimbabwean dollar was abandoned entirely. The country switched to using foreign currencies, primarily the US dollar. Sound familiar? Venezuela, 2016 to present. Oil prices collapsed, the government kept spending, kept printing, and the bolivar became nearly worthless. People resorted to barter. Some regions shifted to using Colombian pesos or US dollars instead. Sound familiar? Every single one of these collapses follows the same script. Government needs money, government prints money, people lose faith, the currency dies. The NCR dollar is a pixel-perfect recreation of this cycle, and most players walk right past it without realizing they just got a lecture in monetary history. This is the uncomfortable paradox at the heart of New Vegas that most players walk right past. The faction with the most brutal ideology has the most stable currency. The democracy is printing itself into irrelevance. Fallout isn't saying authoritarianism is good, it's saying something more unsettling. In a world where institutions can't be trusted, people fall back on things that can't lie. Gold can't lie. Silver can't lie. A printing press absolutely can. If you want to understand how wealth can destroy you, you need to go to the Sierra Madre. Dead money is horror disguised as a heist. You push through toxic clouds, indestructible holograms, and some of the most unforgiving level design in the series, and you finally reach the vault. Inside, 37 gold bars, enough caps to reshape the Mojave economy, generational wealth, the kind of score that ends the game. Then the alarm trips, 60 seconds to exit. And you realize those gold bars are absurdly heavy. Take them all and you can barely shuffle toward the door. You will die in that vault with more wealth than most wasteland settlements will ever see. Every single person who has played this DLC has spent time they're not proud of trying to exploit this, stacking bars near the exit, looking for weight glitches, reloading saves, because the sunk cost trap is not a game mechanic, it's a cognitive bias hardwired into human psychology. We can't leave value behind, even when leaving it behind is the only rational choice. The Sierra Madre is Obsidian telling you something directly. Hoarding isn't a survival strategy, it's a death trap dressed up as security. There's also an economic concept called liquidity, the ability to convert an asset into something useful quickly. Gold bars in a collapsing vault have zero liquidity. They can't be spent, traded, or carried. All that wealth is useless at exactly the moment you need it most. In the wasteland, the best asset isn't the most valuable one, it's the most movable one. The gold isn't the reward, it's the final boss. Let's talk about Fallout 4, where the series quietly replaced one economy with a completely different one, and most people didn't notice. In Fallout 1, 2, and New Vegas, the economy is scarcity-based. Caps are hard to come by, every purchase matters. Finding 200 rounds of 5mm ammo feels like a windfall. Fallout 4 introduced crafting and settlement building, and in doing so, shifted to a resource economy. Suddenly, caps matter less than components. Your desk fan isn't furniture anymore. It's 2 screws and a gear. Your inventory isn't a backpack, it's a mobile salvage operation. And the currency everyone started obsessing over? Adhesive. This wasn't a mistake, it's actually a fairly realistic model. Post-industrial economies often pivot around key industrial inputs. The problem is what happened next. Because you could farm adhesive via the Abraxo vegetable starch exploit, and because settlements let you manufacture almost anything, the scarcity that made earlier games feel dangerous largely evaporated. By mid-game, you're not a survivor, you're a post-nuclear logistics CEO with a personal armory and a settlement network generating passive income. The game stops asking, can you afford this, and starts asking, have you built the right workbench? It's not bad design necessarily, but it does explain why Fallout 4 feels fundamentally different from New Vegas at the economic level, even if you can't immediately put your finger on why. The tension of scarcity is gone, and with it goes a lot of what made the wasteland feel genuinely hostile. Fallout 76 pushed this even further, but that's a video in itself. Why does any of this work? Why does a raider in Diamond City stop shooting long enough to trade?
Why does a super mutant let you pass through their territory if you have the right item? Why does a society of people who've seen the entire world burn still bother to assign value to anything at all? Because economics is trust with a math degree. The reason you can walk into a shop in Megaton and walk out with a weapon is a social contract, silent, unwritten, but real. You both agree, without saying it out loud, that these caps represent something worth exchanging. Break that agreement and the whole system collapses. Honor it and something civilization-shaped starts to grow. Fallout's most underrated argument, buried under the combat and the lore and the factions, is this: civilization doesn't start with a government. It starts with a transaction. The moment two people decide that trading beats fighting, you have the seed of everything that comes after. Every stim pack you buy, every weapon you sell, every trade caravan you escort, you're not just playing an RPG, you're watching the social contract rebuild itself from zero. That's not unique to Fallout. Metro uses bullets, DayZ uses food, The Last of Us uses medical supplies. Every post-apocalyptic world that resonates does so because it correctly identifies what money actually is. Not paper, not gold, not caps, but the shared agreement that cooperation is worth more than conflict. Apparently, even nuclear fire can't burn that instinct out of us. If the bombs dropped tomorrow, no quick saves, no VATS, no respawn, what's the one thing in your house that becomes real currency in your neighborhood? Batteries in your junk drawer? Canned goods? A first aid kit? A water filter? Or are you already the kind of person who's going to show up with a bag of bottle caps and a delusional confidence that this time the lore was right? Drop your apocalypse investment strategy in the comments. War never changes, but the price of a stim pack? Always negotiable.